Brennan Lee Mulligan dishes out his best advice for playing, running, and most of all enjoying Dungeons & Dragons.
This is Dungeons & Dragons support.
Brennan Lee Mulligan sat down with Wired to answer questions about D&D for their tech support YouTube series. But before we dive into some of the amazing advice the Dimension 20 DM dropped in the video, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons to help us keep our own videos coming? And then, let's talk Brennan's best D&D advice.
The greatest magic of all is not friendship, it's chronomancy, the ability to control and warp time.
Brennan dropped a lot of spicy D&D takes in his tech support video on Wired, but let's start with one of his very best tips from the entire video. Brennan's guide on how to design a better player character in Dungeons & Dragons, so that the DM can create situations that impact them directly. From trying to find out who burned down your Wizard's Academy or who betrayed your adventurer parents to something as simple as seeing your hometown friends drafted into the army for an upcoming war. By creating stakes for your character, you will create immersion, and then you'll wind up being swept away in the story of the campaign.
Pick characters who care about the world they are in, and you will find yourself swept away by adventure very quickly indeed. That's my advice to you.
We also discovered Brennan's biggest pet peeve as a DM, which is a player who decides for whatever reason to just grind the adventure to a halt with their choices and their play. This could be someone who just continuously acts contrarian or antisocial to the DM and the rest of their party because it's, quote, what my character would do. And Brennan points out that there isn't much a DM can do if that player persists in their actions. An unfortunate example of this, and let me preface this by saying Aabria is a friend of the channel, who's been a guest many times, and who I greatly respect as a DM and a player and as an amazing human being. Her last appearance on Critical Role's finale shows how this can happen to even someone as experienced as Aabria, as we saw her as Deanna get far too carried away in these kind of story grinding moments, where Matt Mercer was literally forced to cast silence spells and even a wall of flames to try and keep her from interrupting big moments between the main cast as they tried to wrap up their backstory loose ends, to the point where they ultimately had to give up and pivot away from a pretty crucial scene between Fern and the demon prince who marked her for Asmodeus, because even silenced Aabria was going way over the top with miming things and dirty actions and just kind of making the scene all about herself in a way that distracted everyone until Liam stepped in and basically decided to just move the story along, not fully resolved. While some players will be antisocial because they just want to be edgelords or contrarian, this just shows you've also got cases like Aabria's where it was clearly well-intentioned, but they just failed to read the room or the moment and also kind of ground that story to a halt. But either way, if you keep making player choices that cause the DM to stop the story in its tracks, Brennan's not a fan of that style of play, and you should probably take the hint and consider some serious changes to the way you're approaching the table with your interaction. Now, as one of the best DMs around, Brennan of course had some incredibly sage advice on how to start your own Dungeon Master career during this video as well. Brennan is one of the greatest DMs out there, and his advice for new DMs is pretty simple. It's just twofold. Number one, run a session zero. Session zeros help everyone at your table get on the same page in terms of characters and the tone of the campaign, etc. And it also lets you as a DM see what kind of story beats they might want. It just gives you the prep you need to prepare for your campaign. And then part two, make sure you just laugh off your failures and don't expect perfection. No one is going to get every rule right and nail every NPC interaction on their first time out as a DM, and you shouldn't hold yourself to that impossible standard. You will learn so much from your first session as a DM, so don't be afraid of getting a few things wrong. And just rely on your characters and see what's making them happy and use that as your guide as what to do, and you will never go wrong even as a new Dungeon Master.
That being said, the answers lie in your players. Just listen to them, tap into what is bringing them joy, and you will do wonders, my friend. Rooting for you.
Maybe the hottest of takes was Brennan's rant about wizards and why they should be squishy, or squishier even, and honestly this one you should just experience firsthand, so here you go.
What, you want hit points in addition to being able to bend reality with your mind? Wizards are so powerful. They're like the most powerful class in the game. If you can survive those low levels, you're gonna be dominating battlefields from here till the end game. A D6 is fine. I come from 3.5, where they had D4 hit points, and I think we should go back to that. I think they got it too easy as it is now. D6 hit dice. They should be squishy. Stay on the back line. Let your barbarian have some fun.
Another hot topic for Dungeon Masters Brennan hit on was when, if ever, it's okay to fudge the dice to get the outcome you want as a DM. While refusing to outright endorse cheating the dice behind your DM screen, Brennan does admit that the temptation to do that exists in all DMs, and is usually born of good things like trying to spare the party from something like a TPK or a critical hit that you know will kill a player character. But this ties into another massive point Brennan went over for DMs that even Matt Mercer and Critical Role have struggled with in the last campaign, especially. What do you do as a DM when the dice simply refuse to cooperate with the story you planned on telling? Brennan's answer here is very simple. The dice exist to help us surrender control as DMs, and failure is a key component of a great story, not something to be avoided. So if the dice insist that someone fails in an important task, let it happen, and make that failure be the motivator that drives them or the party on to greater feats or future revenge down the line. So if the dice say something fails, let it fail. And we even saw how someone as great as Matt Mercer can struggle with this, as he spent a lot of Campaign 3 giving players a crazy amount of chances to make new dice rolls after their initial rolls failed them, and we got some really weird story beats and encounters that dragged on much longer than they should have because of it. For example, Ashton was falling for literally half an hour in the final episode. So don't be afraid to follow the dice wherever they lead you, as failure shouldn't be avoided. Failure can be fun and a great part of every narrative. And last of all, Brennan revealed his personal golden rule for playing D&D or any other TTRPG, and that is, you are playing with fellow human beings at the table, so stay focused on their experience and having fun together with them above all else. A rulebook or an adventure module is never going to say thank you for following every single encounter and every single rule down to the letter, but the people at your table will give you their real, honest emotions and feedback and reactions to what's happening at the table if you stay tapped into their experience and what's going on around you and focus on that more than nailing every single rules interaction. It's basically a streamlined version of the classic rule of cool, where Brennan would rather you do what makes everyone at the table have a better experience versus following the absolute letter of the law when it comes to TTRPG and D&D rules, and then just hoping everyone had a good time along the way somehow.
Are they having fun? Are you all telling a story together? That is the measure of a great tabletop game.
Anyway, those were just a few of our favorite little nuggets of Brennan wisdom from his D&D tech support video. So if you want to hear even more advice from the Dimension 20 creator and frequent Critical Role collaborator, make sure you head on over to Wired and watch the full video. We'll even put a link in the description for you as well. And then make sure you let us know what your favorite bit of advice from Brennan was down in the comments. And don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons.